It's a big day for crypto, not only crypto actually, but it's also a big day for the rest of the markets. And that's got everything to do with the huge earnings that's going to be coming out for Nvidia later on today. Remember, in terms of weighting and how much of a role Nvidia plays on the total market cap or the S&P 500, it's a massive amount. It's the biggest stock that's out there. And consequently, everybody in all markets are going to be looking out to see what is Nvidia going to do next. So we had Bitcoin coming off near the lows early on this morning, almost retesting that 89K level. I'll show you on the low time frames in a moment what you're looking at. But in terms of the high time frame picture over here, you can see still bears are in control. We are hunting for the possibility of a little bit of a bounce zone. I do have a little bit of optimism for you today in terms of the TD9 sequential, which is coming into play. That is printing for today, which could elicit a little bit of a short-term bounce. But otherwise, if you continue to see bears in control, even following that bounce, well, ultimately you would expect lower highs and a rejection. And then, of course, the absolutely critical key support is coming into that horizontal cluster. This is super significant as a level to hold. And I could always see as well in the future, if we do come back down there, I can just already imagine it, how this is going to act as a neckline for inverse head and shoulder, or not an inverse, actually a normal head and shoulders pattern over there. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what the bulls need to do, what the bears need to do, depending on which side of the fence you're on. If you're looking for the bullish case, I'll show you what you want to see happen. And if you're bearish and shorting the market, I'll show you where to be cautious, right? We still have to have a look over here at the traditional markets. When we look at gold over here, this is what we're being focused on, building that short trade. We're in the money, deep in the money over here on that trade. What we want to see over here is what happens at that 0.5 level coming into this yellow box. This is an inverse fair value gap, which we'd expect should act as resistance. So I'm going to price label that, and that's just simply for those people that maybe missed out on the initial short trade that we took. This is generally the area of interest, 4,135 for gold. Assess as price comes into that level. If you start to see rejective behavior in the form of wicks that are forming very similar to this area over here, those wicks that formed, that becomes a second opportunity to build that short trade. And we're looking for a swing short, right? So we're looking for much lower prices. I'll update all of the levels for those of you that are in whale room in the Discord, right? And then we're looking at silver as well. Very, very, very similar setup over here. We deep in the money on this trade. We simply just want to have a look at high price reacts into the same thing. On the 4-hourly chart, it's the inverse fair value gap, and that's just shy of 52, right? So $52 over there, and we're looking to short this all the way down into the 30 region, right? So we'll see if we get that trade over there. At the end of the day, risk is eliminated, the trend is down, lower lows and lower highs. You've had your change of character over there, and everything is coming down. The S&P 500 as well also has had a break of structure, lower highs and lower lows. It's broken below the all-important SR flip region. We wanted to see this yellow box hold, and yesterday you can see rallied up into it, came back down over there, and therefore, you know, maybe there's going to be a bit of a domino effect, right? We don't know yet. It's going to depend on what happens with the Nvidia results, which, you know, the expectation is that they have great results, and the estimated revenue over here is $55 billion. So if this comes out as disappointing in terms of their financial report, then expect that the market will go down. If we just scoot down to Nvidia over here, well, you can see as well, it's really threatening this SR flip region, and you've already also put in a lower high and a lower low. So there's your lower low, bounce up, put in a lower high, price coming down over here on the 4-hourly at least, and losing that key level. So we said you don't want to spend much time under here. If Nvidia starts to gain acceptance below this level like that, well, ultimately leading into today's reports, you know, maybe it's not going to be all sunshine, rainbows and butterflies. And if that does come out badly, expect the rest of the market is going to come down hard, because the market cap of Nvidia is basically bigger than all of crypto. So one little sell-off over here is going to be pretty brutal. Let's have a look at the Dow Jones. Very similar, right? You're seeing the cracks. The cracks are there, change of character. Price was putting in high lows, high highs. You've now pushed all the way through that to put in a lower high, which means any bounce that occurs over here on the Dow Jones into that area, the yellow box as underside resistance, 47,000. Well, that would be your rejective zone to put in the lower high. And then you've had a complete, break of structure over there, and you'd expect that trend on the low time frames to continue. QQQ, same thing, lower lows, lower highs, breaking below the key 50% level. There it is, 613. You wanted to see that level hold. Yesterday, you pushed up into it and you sold off. So there are cracks, right? Don't mistake in that. There are cracks over there. We got a lower high as well on Apple coming into full TP. We took all of our profits over there on that trade. I just showed you Nvidia. Tesla as well, putting in lower lows and lower highs, breaking below the key 410 level. This is a significant horizontal if you zoom out on the high time frames like the daily and weekly, and that is your range high breakout level. So you ultimately want to see price get back and recover above at least 420 on Tesla. You can see over there for Meta, strong selling towards the downside. Google is still holding up okay. MicroStrategy still looks average. Amazon is absolutely cratering over here, also coming down pretty hard. Coinbase coming down pretty hard, but will find support around 217. Circle is just abysmal. We have Robinhood, which was performing incredibly well, better than a lot of cryptos, still coming down, lower lows, lower highs, broken structure over there. You've lost some of those key levels. Now you need to be careful that this doesn't flip into resistance. You would want to see this trading back above 120 ASAP if that's going to hold on. And then we have also just a series of lower lows and lower highs on MicroStrategy, which we're very, 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 very deep in the money. Huge profits over here, 40%. Almost 40%. That's 37.95% since we entered into that short trade. And I said I'm going to be holding this for a long time, right? I'm not looking to take any profits over here yet. Risk is eliminated. You could theoretically just take 5%. If you wanted, you can. If you took this trade with me initially, feel free, take 5% off the table. That way there's absolutely no ways you can lose money. Even if you do spike up here like this, I think it will just be another lower high, and you're going to continue to melt through, all the way down to these previous lows, like 100, possibly even all the way back down to 60, 70, numbers that most people in MicroStrategy don't want to hear. So that's what we're waiting for. We're waiting for those Nvidia results later on today. Mark it off on your economic calendar. This is going to be the big one. This is going to move the markets for sure and bring volatility. Bitcoin has tagged our level. It's the bottom of the parallel channel. It's still holding up over here. But remember, you're going against the momentum. If you are long here, you're going against momentum. The momentum is towards the downside. And remember, we spoke about this just yesterday. The spread between those moving averages shows you the more they spread apart from each other, the more momentum the bears get in this move towards the downside. And you can see currently on this 5-day chart, you've rallied exactly into that 3 MA and you've rejected off there. So we've got the 3, the 7, and the 30 over there. And bulls, or bears, are fully in control. So looking at the 5-day chart, you've got that confirmed expansion on the Bollinger Band with percentile. Now, this is where I bring a little bit of hopium in because we tag that level. It's a significant level in terms of the daily fair value gap. It's a significant level in terms of the lower boundary of the parallel channel. And then on top of that, if we go to this and we reposition that onto the daily, well, what you're seeing over here is you got a really heated environment. So there's a good chance that this will get recontraction. Now, the only way you get recontraction, so similar to this environment, you reach extremely heated territory in terms of volatility and the expansion of volatility, and then it recontracts. So coming off of a down move, the only way that you can recontract is when you bounce. So the bounces would create the recontraction over here. And usually you don't see this profile like stay red like this at the 100 percentile mark for too long. So I think it's something worthwhile and noteworthy to consider. If there is going to be a bounce, today would be the day. And that's because you got the TD sequential 9 buy. There it is. Tom DeMark's 9 buy. You're still below your RSI pivot level, which means the RSI in the daily still remains towards the downside until you get above 92,600. But don't be too surprised if you see a little bit of a short-term relief over here. Things are quite overextended, so price can easily bounce probably towards about that 100K level, and then you're going to meet more underside resistance over there. So you still have your death cross. That's taken place, and bulls have a lot of work to do to get above that. Anytime that you come into this to test as resistance is probably going to be a shorting opportunity. So as that grinds down, whether that happens now or whether that happens, later, whenever that test comes into those EMAs, the 50 and 200 EMA, which are currently downtrending, that will become a shorting opportunity for bigger swing trades. So there's your daily fair value gap. What I want to highlight on this chart is if there is any kind of a relief rally or pump over here, and you start to feel all giddy and optimistic again about price going to new all-time highs, what I want you to look at and study is just the volume. So it's not to say that you can't do that. You could, put in a big move, reset things and rally to new all-time highs. It's just incredibly unlikely. But what's more important to look at is when price is traveling towards the upside, what is the volume profile doing? And if the volume profile is, declining on volume, that will be just like every other warning signal that we've got over here, right? Every single one of those pumps were met with lower and lower and lower volume. And that's what told us that price was probably going to fall out over here. And that's what happened. So that's what you're waiting for. Basically, it means there's not much that you can do right now unless you're a low time frame trader looking to take the low time frame trade. And what I spoke to you about yesterday was I said before I got too bullish, I'd wait for price to break at least below that 5.69%. And the reason why on the USDT dominance is that this is simply just an uptrend putting in high highs and high lows, and you're trying to flip this level into support. And I would still maintain the same thing. Maybe if you really want to be kind and to the bulls, you would say if it breaks that level, but I prefer to leave it in the same place. I would prefer to see this, reject over here, come down and gain acceptance underneath that 5.69% level. Then I would say that, okay, this looks healthy enough to suggest that that is a major low or local low. Let's not even call it a major low, a local interim low that could create a little bit of a bounce and relief over there. That gives anyone the opportunity that's stuck in positions, especially if you're in a leverage trade, to possibly de-risk. This is where I'd love for you to actually go and vote, because we can see where the majority of the viewers are at, right? Let's see where you guys are at. Go through to the YouTube video, smash the like button. It helps me to get the show content out there and get distribution of this. But then go and vote on the poll. And this is your current results. So, 46% of you have more than 80% exposure to the crypto market in the form of holding spot. I specifically said spot because I just assumed that anyone in leverage is probably liquidated by now. So let's speak more about spot positioning. 50 to 80% exposed to spot. That's 12% of you that said that. So 10% of you said 20 to 50%, and only 32% of people have less than 20% exposure to spot. So remember, the market is designed to wreck most of the people most of the time. So what do you do with this information? Well, when you look at that, what does it tell you? It tells you that max pain is down. Like, that's the truth. Max pain is not all-time highs. Don't buy into that absolute BS if you're reading that on Twitter. We're looking at the poll results. You guys know I take you through every single step of price action as it unfolds in real time. And the most recent things that we've been looking at, we said when this price move came towards the downside, you definitely don't want to get long unless you get above that line. Then we dropped that line and we said over here, you don't want to get long unless you get above that line. You don't want to get long unless you get back above that line. And we keep lowering the level, yet many of you still remain heavily exposed into the market. The point that I'm trying to make over here is, if I explicitly said that each step of the way, how much higher do you think these poll results would be in the 80% exposure category on other channels? That's what I'm saying, right? If I literally came and warned of all these things, warned of the low volume, warned of every single thing before the dump happened, and we still have, you guys, amazing loyal viewers and subscribers to the channel still in this category, the truth is that the max pain still remains towards the downside. So you need to be ultra careful, right? Now, I'm not suggesting that you sell all of your bags here because you're coming into key support. That would be crazy. What I would say is pay a lot of attention if something like this does play out. And this would get quite brutal, but I think that there's still a chance that you'll revisit at some point back towards that 105K level. And that would be in a pretty extreme scenario, right? Let's actually quickly see, do I have that tool over here? There we go. So this would actually be an absolutely picture perfect head and shoulders, right? If you ran all the way down to that neckline, which would mean this sell-off would need to actually continue down towards that neckline. And then you'd put in some sort of a, relief rally. I could always see that in a worst case scenario as a possibility. Now, I'm not hopeful of that. I don't want you guys to get wrecked. I'd rather have the market goes up higher to new all-time highs. But the reality is that's not happening. Price has lost some critical levels. You're below the 21 EMA, which is one of the first and earliest warning signs. You broke below as well the stop and reversal indicator a while ago. And that's where I started to warn that, when this happens, you can see price was above it. And then immediately that next candle, this was a big warning. On the 6th of October, that was almost a bearish engulfing candle. And then we had the 10th of October liquidations that came soon after that, and people got absolutely rinsed, right? So you have to ask yourself fundamentally, when you look at the market that we've been in over the last 1 year or so, there's been a lack of retail interest in the market, right? You are retail, I'm also retail. We're not trading institutional money, so we're retail. But it's the same cohort of people. So when those same cohort of people that have been around for 1 year and survived all the other liquidation events get liquidated on the next big liquidation, which was the 10th of October, $20 to $40 billion, right? No one's agreed on a total number yet, but it was at least $20 billion, which was by far the biggest liquidation event that we've ever seen. Where did you think the new money was going to come from to send price to 2, 3, 4, 500K? I mean, I didn't think it was coming from anywhere. Maybe you did, but I didn't think that. So therefore, you need to be ultra cautious, right? Things can get a whole lot worse. I'm just being honest with you guys. So if it's going to get better, monitor the low timeframes. What you want to see is the USDT dominance do that. That's all I want to see. If that happens over here and then you get some sort of a bearish retest on USDT dominance, great. We giga bullish. We look for the moon again and off we go. But that's not happening. Right now, you have price rejecting from exactly where we said yesterday it was probably going to reject. We need to recover the yearly open and break this downsloping trend line, which is the yellow one. There it is, the yellow downsloping trend line. Go back to YouTube on this exact day if you want to go and see what I said on YouTube on that day, and I'll even give you the day, the 13th of November. Go scroll back. Look at what I said on the 13th of November. I said rejective zone coming into the 618, the golden pocket. That is your short zone. Price came down aggressively since then, and that's the trend that you want to break. You need to get above the yearly open. You need to rally a lot higher. This was underside resistance yesterday, and price rallied into it, and it rejected. And I did update that as well at the time for the whale room community. If you go in here, you guys can see, I said tagging a pretty key level when Bitcoin was just below $90,000. That is your bounce zone. And then just after that, I said exactly $93,500 is where we're looking for the rejection. And there it was. Price rallied up to $93,600. So I missed it by a few minutes, by a few, not minutes, by a few dollars. And then price came down. Now, look, there is still a chance that you can bounce from here. Just understand what kind of a game you're playing. So you're looking for some form of bullish divergence to form over here to create a high low and for price to continue. But I still just think it's very risky to even long over here. You could long over here with a tight stop loss now below those lows, because you can bet anything if you take out those lows now on the low time frame, you're coming for these lows. And if you come back for these lows, double bottoms very, very rarely work, which means if you come back for that low, you're probably going to break it. And then you're going down to 85K. That would be my next number, right? $85,000. First target was 88,000. It narrowly missed that. $89,000 was hit. The next target becomes $85,000. And I would assume that will take place if you can't get back above these highs. And that's probably all going to be dictated by the Nvidia results later today, right? That's going to be the most important thing. So if you want this information, if you want to be kept up to date, as I do keep the guides up to date over here in Whale Room each step of the way, remember, guys, it is currently Black Friday. So we're running a massive special, almost 50% off. You got 48% off. You'll never, ever get an opportunity to get into Black Friday cheaper than this. This is the cheapest it will ever be. And the link is in the description below. If you do want to join, you have to apply the promo code, right? Just to be clear, you have to apply that or you won't get the special. So take that, copy, paste it, highlight it. And when you go through to join, to sign up, it will open up this page over here. Let's just quickly do that. It will open up this page over here, and where it says promo code at the bottom, there it is. Paste that in and it will apply the discount for you. So link is in the description below. Take advantage while you can. We now only have 50% of the places left. Yesterday, we had 30%, another 20% of people occupied the available membership spaces. We have 50% left. We'll keep reevaluating each day and see what we end with, right? Okay, so let's go. Let's have a look over here at the whale trade site. Long story short, what this is telling us is we had a massive drop-off in the volume. The liquidations came down a lot, meaning there's a lack of positioning within the market, which means the order books are very, very, very thin, and it's very easy to get sizable moves. So it just takes one big player to come in, right, to put in a sizable move. We got our skew over here is very neutral, only negative 1.57 with shorts in control. This is not aggressive shorting. There's still a lot of people looking for long trades. We can see in terms of the funding, and what that means is the inverse of a short squeeze is still possible, a long squeeze where price just gets squeezed lower and lower and lower until all the longs are taken out. But you've had a massive, this is a very significant drop off over here in total liquidations. Very, very rare that we'll see such a low number. Only 140 million in the last 24 hours. And the majority of those were taken out from the long side. So daily exchange volume still fighting for its life over there. This is choppy price range over here. We'll reevaluate each and every day. Big ETF outflows. What else have we got over here? Anything else significant that we need to look at? Let's just quickly check out the flows over the week and the day. So Zcash still getting in those big flows. And on the daily, it's the same thing, right? So Zcash still trending, still got those big flows in play over there. This site is free for you guys, by the way. Link is in the description below. It's the whale trade site. Now, moving on. Total cryptocurrency market cap, total 2, total 3, others. Where are we at? This is in a pretty significant place because you're tagging that golden pocket, and similar to Bitcoin on the 5-day time frame coming into the lower boundary of that parallel channel, we're obviously hopeful that that TD sequential will create that bounce because that will get you off the bottom of this channel. And if that happens, you know, it might bring some more buyers in that are looking at that as a high low. Now, again, I want to be clear. I don't personally think that this will necessarily go into new all-time highs, but if we start to clear certain levels, we can always reevaluate. I think even if you bounce off here, the most likely outcome is you reject to create a lower high. But if you look at the total cryptocurrency market cap, it's also simultaneously approaching that lower boundary of the parallel channel that's been governing price action, and it has confluence of that golden pocket when you take price from, or the fib from the low to the high, you're tagging that 3 trillion mark. I guess that the Nvidia results are probably going to be somewhat of a catalyst to get price either through the lower boundary, making things worse, or bouncing off of this key level. I don't have the answer because I don't have insider info as to what's going to happen around Nvidia. I'm just letting you know what to plan for. We have total 2 is still pretty heavy over here. This one's probably got a lot of work to do. We can also map out those fibs. Very close to the 618. That liquidation event on 10 October did tag it, bounce, and now you're almost fully retracing. So areas of interest, right? These are just areas of interest for the coming days and weeks. If you continue to bleed out into that zone, we'll look for a bit of a reversal over there. And then it's the same thing on total 3. This can come down to just under 800 billion. We got others already adding a lot of pressure. Maybe others is already leading what's going to happen next in the market. So if this starts to close multiple candles through this level, you know, can we be any more generous and maybe just bend this a little bit for them? Probably like that is the best that I can do, is give them that. And if this fails that, it's coming all the way back down to 146, which won't be good, right? So pay attention to that USDT dominance. It's one of the most important charts because if that kind of carnage and wreckage takes place with this breaking through, and I'll use our highlighter. So if this starts to break through and move down towards there, USDT dominance is almost inevitably at that point going to be trading above 6.5. And that's why you want to pay attention to this. So 6.5, we can mark it off on our low time frame chart as we monitor, you know, the 4-hour chart and how things are unfolding. That's the level. You do not want to see USDT dominance getting up to that zone over there, 4.5. If this keeps trending higher and it closes there, it's going to be bad, right? Okay. He has a great question, all in 24. How did you tweet when you're doing a live show? Very good question. You can schedule your tweets. That's how. So you do your research, and then you plan all your tweets for the day, and then you schedule it, and you say, hey, release this one at like 10 a.m., 12 p.m., 1 p.m. That's basically how it works. Okay, BTC dominance, BTC, or maybe I'm not live. What about that? You know, maybe I'm actually not live right now. Maybe I'm actually on Twitter. Just kidding, guys. I am live. I'm reading your comments in real time over here. Okay, BTC dominance still looking like it wants to come down, but we've spoken a lot about this. Not all altcoins will perform well in that environment. Some of the better picks are things like Ethereum, and that's just because of the ETH BTC chart. Still hoping and looking for a potential bounce out of here. But hope is not a great strategy, right? But one can hope and dream. You need a little bit more bullish price action over here to get price trailing higher. So that's what we want to see over there. You know, the whole market can rip if USDT dominance rejects off of this level, but we're not there yet. DXY, I can pull it up. Let me just get it from another chart on the other screen. I know that's a request. A lot of people have recently been asking about that, so I'll show you quickly. Almost tagging, just narrowly missing it, the multi-decade trend line. This is not a short-term trend line. The separation between those levels is years, 2021 all the way to 2025. It's a long time, right? Previous time that trend line was tagged was 2014. So 2014 all the way to 2021. The previous time before that, you deviated below 2011. And then the time before that, you hit that was 2008. So long-term trend line, you know, you could come lower. You could come lower over here. But again, I just don't think necessarily, like I'm not betting on this breaking. I'm not betting on this breaking is what I'm saying. I'm more betting that, like, worst case, this comes back down here and then slowly starts to grind back towards the upside. So, yeah, it's been grinding up. This is a weekly chart. If you want to see the monthly, this is what the monthly looks like. So this won't play out overnight. It'll take years to. But if this were a 5-minute chart, I'm pretty sure that you'd be looking at a long trade over here with your stop loss below those lows, which is only a 4% move away, and you'd be targeting somewhere near the top. So if you do go to the top side over here, that's bear markets all around. Okay, liquidity, just under 100 million, coming in at 97, 98K. Even if you go for that, that's just going to set in your next lower high for price. Deltas, a little bit mixed signals across the different time frames. Asta was very, very positive because it's been trending. We got Solana, which went marginally positive and now back negative. And then the rest of them are just quite negative over here. BTC, ETH, SUI, and Sonic over there, negative funding over there. So market struggling. So this is your low time frame. We can probably drop as low as like the 15-minute. 15-minute is, you know, you got your green dots over there, price bounce. I'm looking for, you know, any sort of bullish momentum that could form over here that could get you through these levels. So I'm not writing it off. There's a possibility that you put in a bit of a W formation. And the big thing is to clear this zone. If you can get back successfully into that like 96K level, then any of those pullbacks that throw you back into the yearly open will start to look really good. Remember, in terms of what the yearly chart looks like, and maybe we should actually just look at that very quickly. This is your yearly chart. Wait, let's go on one of my high time frame charts over here to have a look at the yearly. We'll look at, should we look at this one over here? So I'm going to clean some of this up. Let's just remove all of that. There we go. And let's have a look at the yearly picture, and we'll turn everything else off. We need turn it all off. And then just an unfiltered view. We just look simply at what does the 12-month chart look like. Okay. So this is the importance of getting back above the yearly open. If you can get above the yearly open, the candle starts to slowly turn green. Now, yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's going to trade back above here in the next, we got like 5 weeks left, right? Which means this is probably going to be a red candle. And then what does that mean for the next month? That's what you need to ask yourself, right? What does that mean then for the next month? I would say what it correlates most to is probably going to be one of these candles. It's basically the equivalent of that candle or of that candle. That's what this candle is going to be. And what comes the next year? Well, the next year comes your bear market. So realistically, that's probably what's going to happen. Okay. Realistically, that is what this candle is. Even if it closes green, it's just going to be, in my opinion, the equivalent of this candle or this candle, which means the candle in 2017 or the candle in 2021. That is what this candle is on a yearly. Okay. So basically, you would therefore actually position your bias if you're simply trading those low time frames and the ranges like the yearly opens. It's more like what we would usually do in the markets is anything below the yearly open, you expect to be the wick low, and you would start to look for long trade opportunities. Now you can kind of flip that bias that anything that goes over the yearly open becomes a good opportunity for a swing short trade. It is what it is, right? This is trading the market. I know people get super emotional, but that's the way that it works. You just flip it, inverse your chart. Okay, invert your chart. So if you are into the low time frame trading, guys, take advantage of all the Black Friday specials. So remember, you obviously got your whale room one that's happening over here. Look for a great community to join of proper traders. And then if you already got your trading system together and you know what you're doing and you know how to calculate your risk and not lose too much money, because you capped when you do these funding challenges, you can get huge funding, right? The funding challenges, there's the criteria. It depends if you want the 1-step or the 2-step. 1-step means you only have to go through one stage. So your profit target, you basically have to hit 8% and you can only lose 5%. And then basically that's it. You're trading with real money. So if you do want this, it's the biggest special of the year. Again, you're going to wait a whole year. What I've done is I've gone and purchased a whole bunch of challenges, enough to last me the year. So I'm buying 30 challenges. Okay. And then I'm getting 60 because you buy 3, you get 6. I'm buying 30 challenges. I'm getting 60. That gives me enough challenges for the entire year. And then you can trade with other people's money. And the biggest thing is you're keeping 100% of the profits. Remember, when it comes to 𝗵𝗻 challenges, usually they only allow you to keep 80% of the profit and they take 20% because they're loaning you the money or they're giving you the money. You're paying for the challenge to pass it. But then if you can pass it, if you're a good trader, you're getting all the money, right? So it's a nice way to further your trading career without risking too much of your own capital. You're still risking capital because of the challenge, but you're not risking $100,000 of your own capital. So use the link below if you want to get that special. You have 5 days left to get it. I have purchased 30 and I'm receiving 60 and they don't expire, and the 100% profit split is available as long as you purchase it with that promo code, the Black Friday promo. So all of it is linked below, right? You have to use that. There we go. So I did this and I just bought it 10 times. Okay, there we have it. So let's get into some of the altcoins, see where things are over here. A little bit of a bounce over there on Solana. Obviously, in hindsight, this is not much. Again, just be clear about things, guys. It's very simple. It's just lower lows and lower highs. Any bounces that occur into the golden pocket, which are your green lines, become shorting opportunities. So for Solana, 156. That's the level, 156. Okay, let's have a look at SUI. Pretty brutal. You could bounce up over here towards $2, but you've lost some significant levels. Zcash, let's go into a low time frame for Zcash. Finding support again at this zone. So not bad, trying to recover back above that 50% level. That's measured from the low to the high over there. But yeah, look, I'm not short on Zcash. I'm actually still in a long position over here. I just don't think that this parabolic advancement is going to last beyond December. In December, I think that this will top. Okay, so keep an eye out on that. We'll go on to XRP. XRP nearing that bottoming territory or bouncing territory. I shouldn't say bottoming, but more bouncing zone. So price coming down into about 196, potential bounce area. What about Sonic? How's that looking? So Sonic still getting obliterated, trading all the way back down at the lows. Look at that money grab over there, 77% up, followed by 40% down almost straight away. Pretty brutal over there. Okay. How's Asta doing, which has been one of the stronger ones? Still looking strong. Still looking strong, still grinding up. I think you're going to find a lot of resistance just below that $2 region, about $1.90 to $2. Okay. What else? What else have we got over here? So guys, also remember, in terms of reviews, Whale Room is 4.9 stars. Okay, 4.9 stars. You can go and look on WAP as well if you want to see any of the reviews. 4.9 stars. I think that's the highest that's in the industry, just to be clear. Anyways, okay, BTC, it is putting in a bit of a move over here. Let's just look at that hourly. So what you really want to see is that reclaim of the yearly open. If you can clear the yearly open, you start to open up targets towards about $100,000. Alrighty. 30 challenges. Yes, 30 challenges, because that gives me one per week, right? So the thing is, because I might be trading multiple of these things simultaneously. So I don't want to be limited on the trades, because you can only get a certain amount of drawdown, right? You capped on your drawdown. We can quickly go to it and I'll just show you again. If we just scroll through to the challenges, remember, it depends which one you're taking. So if you go to the 100K one, for example, your max daily loss, you're only allowed to lose 5% in a day. So you can't ever draw down more than 5%. And your max total loss on the challenge is 10% in stage one. So what that means is, let's say, for example, I see a great trade opportunity, but I happen to be in like a 3% loss. Now it becomes too risky for me to take the second trade opportunity that I see maybe on a different coin, because if I lose another 2%, I hit the 5% daily loss on that single account, and then I lose the account. So, let me draw it out like this for you, just to explain, because it's really important. Let's just pretend that, I'm long on Bitcoin over here. All right. I'm long on Bitcoin over here. And that means, and we're targeting up there, but we're more interested in the loss. So the loss over here would mean that price would move 2.7% against me. Okay. So I have funding account number one, $100,000 account open, and I'm in a Bitcoin trade. So I'm in a Bitcoin trade. Okay. That means I have 2.7% risk on the table. Now I see another great trade on Ethereum, and I decide, you know what, I want to take trade B on Ethereum. Okay. And trade B's stop loss is 3% away. Okay. 3% away. That means 3% plus 2.7%. If both of these trades on the same account, if I took trade A and B on the same account, get stopped out, I blow that account. So what I'd rather do is I'd rather have multiple accounts for that reason. And then I can have, trade A open on one account, trade B open on another account. And that basically gives me enough trades for, at least one trade a week, a little bit more than one trade a week for the whole year. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. Anyways, let's move on. Let's have a look at some of the other charts. Remember, guys, when it comes to, I know there's a request over here for Dogecoin. We can pull it up. These charts are wrecked, right? I don't think there's anything good going on over here. There is your Dogecoin chart. These charts are absolutely obliterated. This is a major range low that will be forming. You got a big SR flip region at about 13 cents, but 13 cents is still quite far. 13 cents, you could drop another almost 20%, 18 to 20%. Okay, there's your chart. Like, I actually don't think Dogecoin will make a new all-time high again. Like that 2021 peak, have a look at that, lower high. I think this now enters into the category of all the other meme coin charts, which just each cycle is lower and lower. If you look up, there's a meme in terms of, diminishing returns, and it looks like this. This is what the attention looks like in a new sector, and then it's lower, and then it's lower, and then it's lower, and then it's lower. Unfortunately, that's the reality. Okay. The good news is that we are traders at heart, and there will always be opportunities for us. So if crypto goes to absolute SH1T, it's okay. We'll just move into something else. We'll trade robotics or AI stocks or something like that. So remember that there's always a trade. Do not lose all your money. That's it. Survive, and then you can thrive. That's what it's about. Literally, there's another chart that looks like this, right? You need to survive. You need to survive the chop. You need to survive. I cover this in Whale before you can thrive. So you need to survive this environment to get in over here and absolutely milk that environment. Righty. So I don't really see the point in even going through all these charts. They're all rinsed. There's nothing to see over here. Like, honestly, what is there to see over here? Let's just look at Bitcoin and stuff, right? Bitcoin, ETH, some of the metals, as James Doe over here says, trade the metals, right? Can trade the metals as well. 𝗪𝗏 is wrecked. I'm going to pull up 𝗪𝗏. Vijay, I hope that you didn't have too much in 𝗪𝗏, but we can pull up the chart. It's absolutely rinsed and has been for a long time. And you guys know that I've said that over and over and over again. So 𝗪𝗏, let's click on that. Let's go into the weekly chart. And there it is. Okay, 𝗪𝗏 is totally wiped. So unfortunately, most of these projects will not survive. It really is looking to me like, you know, they're not going to go through the .com era where everything that had a .com at the end of its name pumped to ridiculous valuations and then went to zero. It's already happening in real time. In real time, it's already happening. These things are rinsed. I don't think this thing will ever even get back above that high at $50. Chart-wise, it's just rinsed. And that's going to be the case for most of those. So I do apologize to give you the hard truth like that and maybe hurt your feelings, but that is the reality. You got to stick with the king. Things like Bitcoin, you know, maybe you can try things like ETH, and then the others are just short-term trades, right? We're in and we're out. That's it. Hayden is putting in a very special request for specifically that question. Let's just see over here for the 𝗪𝗏 question. So Hayden put in a very special request.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
That was for the 𝗪𝗏 holders. For the 𝗪𝗏 holders and for, to be honest, 99% of the other cryptos. So yeah, we're looking for good trades, right? That's all that we want. This is not a trade. This was an example. So please do not take this trade. Let's clean the screen up over here. This is not necessarily a trade. Bitcoin, bears are in control. It's lower lows and lower highs. Be very cautious. If they get above the yearly open and gain acceptance, they're holding multiple candles above $93,000. It just opens up the next trade that we could possibly move to about 100,000. And that's tradable. That is a 7% move. Expect, based on this, by the way, let's just go back to that TD sequential 9 buy coming into a daily fair value gap with already overextended Bollinger Band with percentiles reaching that key level, that there will be a correction in a downtrend, So if you're in a downtrend, it means the trend is down. When you correct, you bounce. Okay, that is what I mean by correction. So when you put in the corrective phase, very likely you'll put in a short-term bounce that will probably be a lower high, but that's tradable and we'll trade it. So if you are looking to take these trades, by the way, guys, there is a $30,000 sign-up bonus incentive, or up to, I should say, up to $30,000 on Phoenix. If you do want to check that out, use the link in the description below. You know, one of the better exchanges out there. They are, you know, fully backed, and they tier 1 exchange, which means they do not trade against you. They have external market makers. That's the important thing when you are trading. Okay, that is it from me, guys. I'll see you all on the next one. Remember, 50% of the whale room spaces have already been taken. We'll update you tomorrow with how many are left. I'll see you all on the next one. Have a great day and cheers for now.